Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about the precise use of communication, or rather the precise way of speaking that helps everybody. And now this is something that I've run into time and time and time and time and time again, and I didn't know what to do about it when I was working or when I was in school or whatever else. It was one of these things that just happened. Understandings happened. Everyone used the same word for different things. No one really necessarily thought about what they were saying until they had said it, and as a result, kind of it would usually leave me to pick up the pieces. Um, and it was a case of going, what? I don't know how this always happens. We're all using the same words, but everyone's deciding that it means something different. And then when it comes round to the situations where you've got people deciding that they just want to throw out everything that they've got in their head and just hope that something sticks. It doesn't, it ends up missing and nothing sticks, and so then there's just this mess left everywhere in the aftermath, and whoever's left standing, again, unfortunately, usually me, would just be left there to pick up the pieces, tidy stuff up, and try and get people to work together again, get people back together to make things function. And especially when I was at work, and this was the way that it was going. At times, it would mean that I'd be there liaising between two or three other members of the management team, and the one situation where I can think of where I was on the other side was when me and the other members of the team that all took umbrage with what had been said had, especially at the time, it seemed like, oh, there's just a misunderstanding here. And then we actually went away, took a look at what was said, what was written to us, and stuff like that, and it all turned out to be lies. And so we kind of decided to kick up a bit more of a fuss. Um, but when it comes to it, there are two issues that surround this. The first one is speaking without thinking, rather, and the second one is using the same word and everyone thinking it means something different. And these are two common, simple things to deal with. Now, the one that's more simple to deal with, the one that's easier just to tackle, is the people using the same word to mean umpteen million different things. And it's the English language that I'm particularly talking about here. And so as a result, yes, it was easy for us to use one word to mean 50 different things, because that's just the way the language is in some instances. And so when it comes to that situation, it's a situation that I now more comfortable with dealing with, because it's what I have to deal with in regards to my clients. People have different appreciations of what the word success means, for instance, or what the word failure means, for instance. And so it's like, for me to help that person when they say, oh, well, I want to be a success, I want to be this, I want to be that, I need to go, okay, stop there for 2 seconds. What is it that you mean by success? What does that look like to you? What does that sound like to you? When you get to being a success, what is your life going to look like? What is it going to sound like? What are the people around you going to be saying? All of those kind of things. It becomes building a picture around that. And now, obviously, that's potentially more difficult to do when you've got a big team of people all trying to work out what the specifics of a word is. And so, what you can do, though, is start off by going, okay, well, success. For instance, if you're in a management meeting for the next quarter and whatever else, you can go, okay, well, success for this quarter is going to be if we can hit this target, and this target. That's what success means for the next 3 to 4 months. Yeah, whilst we're talking about this stuff. In which case, then everybody knows what you're talking about, why you're talking about it, and how they can measure it. Yeah, it becomes a tangible thing to those people rather than a nebulous term. It's not something that people need to worry about one way or the other, because you've got these specific points that are attached to that word use in this specific environment, and so they can work with that. As I've said before, we thrive within rule sets. We can manage that quite comfortably and successfully. And so as a result, that's the thing to pay attention to. Making sure that everyone understands what you mean when you say a word, what they understand you to be saying when you say it. That's fairly simple. It just comes down to asking questions and giving definitions. Not too hard. Now, the other one, though, is people thinking without, well, speaking without thinking. And that's tougher to do because some people just lack tact. Some people just just completely adept at putting their foot in their mouth. Somehow they bend at the knee to such an extent that their foot just slaps straight into their jaw every time they open it. And so as a result, it can be tough to get people to think before they speak and to get people to consider the kind of impact that their words can have. Not because their words have any intrinsic power beyond just being a form of communication, but obviously that communication has a point to it. And if that communication has a point to it, then the point can be impacted by the way the communication transpires. So, in a couple of the instances that I've had where I've had to try and get people to just think a little bit more before they speak, it's usually come down to me sitting them down and talking them through the entire kind of scenario. Yeah? So, X, Y, and Z has happened. What are you going to say? They'll probably say something that's very blunt or somewhat tactless, even if it's factually accurate. And so, as a result, though, then it's a situation of, right, well, then what do you think would happen next? How would you feel if you had had that said to you? And this can be really, really challenging for some people to think through this because they have a very different view of this kind of communication. Maybe they were raised around very blunt communications that are very to the point. Maybe they come from a part of the world where this is the main way that you would communicate. It can be tough. And I personally prefer just speaking plainly, but again, there are an awful lot of people who don't. There are an awful lot of people who much prefer to have someone approach them in a softer manner. Something that's less scary, less abrupt, less sudden and out of nowhere. A lot of people are timid by nature, and so having this stuff just spring out of them can be unnerving and put them on the back foot. Make them defensive and unreceptive. And so, for thinking before you speak, it's a tough one. And I think I might actually go and do another whole video around that by itself. But as a result, though, these are the 2 points that really need to be paid attention to in regards to precise communication. And as a result, though, I want to, before I round this video off, I want to just consider how the big positives that you get from being precise in your communication. Firstly, being precise in regards to the way that you say things and how you say it and kind of what information you're putting forward. It allows everyone to work on the same level. Everyone has the same amount of information. That's just a good thing, right? In regards to thinking before you speak, it allows for those people who might argue against you to potentially find that they don't have anything to argue with you on. If they actually listen to you, which again is more their choice than anything that you can do, but if they decide to argue with you and you've already made everything plainly clear, then they've already lost in the eyes of everyone else around who's kind of sat there as an onlooker. And especially when it comes to situations where meetings or public events where you're speaking or asking questions, it becomes a case of, well, if you've been precise in the way that you're speaking, if you've given as much information as possible in what you're saying, if you've defined the terms that you're using so that everyone's on the same page with what those things that you're saying mean. And I realise that I've at times, I have a tendency to use more imaginative and evocative language, and at times, for instance, there was a comment not so long ago trying to chastise me for the use of the words tiny island when referring to some of the originator countries in the Windrush situation. And I was, in my mind, and considering the video was around population sizes, basically, in regards to who was moving where and how many people, those islands do have, relatively speaking, very, very small populations compared to other much larger countries. And that was the point I was making, but I wasn't entirely specific in it. And so when that person called me out, fair enough. You know, and it's one of those things. It's, you can't be 100% precise all the time. We can't speak into each other's heads. So it becomes a case of kind of forgiving yourself if you are imprecise, if you do get something that someone's taken the wrong way. You know, it's just one of those things, but it's something that you can work around and something that you can deal with as you move on. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on both the finding the definitions of terms for people so that everyone's on board with the same thing, or the other issue of thinking before you speak in regards to being precise in your words and in the way that you put information across. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.